guys, and welcome to the Horror-Ible podcast. I'm Tempest, and I'm here with
Chelsea
and Ryan. So, we are going to be talking about the movie Sinister. So this is your one and only warning. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. We are going to be talking about this movie from every aspect that comes to our imagination, including the ending. We're pretty sure you've seen it, considering it isn't a new movie, but just in case, I highly recommend you go watch the movie and then come back. Short premise on the movie, for those of you that maybe haven't seen it in a while, just to kind of refresh your memory, is a Sinister is a horror movie about a writer played by Ethan Hawke, who wrote one best-selling true crime book and has spent the last several years, last decade actually, of his adult life chasing the fame he once had. Ethan Hawke's character's name is Ellison, and he's carted his long-suffering family with him from crime scene to crime scene, trying to find another murder story that will make the public care about him again. And as the movie begins, he thinks he's gotten his big break. After moving his family into the house where another family was recently killed under bizarre circumstances, he's discovered a treasure trove of old Super 8 movies in the attic. All of them feature horrific family murders. But that's actually the least interesting part of the entire movie, though it is probably the scariest. The best part is something you'd never anticipate. And Tempest, I'm passing the torch on to you.
Alright, so let's talk about the beginning of the movie. When it started, it had a pretty strong opening scene, in my opinion. And for me, it was really impacting and set the tone for the whole film. Ryan, what did you get? What kind of feelings did you get from that very first scene? What stood out to you think?
Well, I remember exactly how I felt because I didn't see this movie in theaters. I didn't even see it when it was on DVD immediately. I was told time and time again to watch the movie, and I remember the trailers didn't intrigue me. It looked like every other horror movie that comes out, jump scares, not a good story with it. Obviously, I was wrong on everything, but when I finally watched it and that opening scene took place, and you watch that family of four with bags over their heads, with nooses around their necks, standing on the ground, and you watch that branch collapse and the four family members raise and their feet dangling, it's rough to watch when you're not expecting that, that sets the tone definitely for the movie. And it got me interested right away. I mean, a lot of these horror movies, they typically start out very dark, dark meaning not a lot of light, and you see shadows, and you see the killer, how deadly the killer can be, and this showed how ruthless the killer can be, killing a family of four by hanging. It was intimidating, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it definitely intrigued me, especially the fact that, you couldn't see who was doing the murdering. I remember specifically, watching that branch and, trying to figure out, how it was being cut and, who was doing it. It was, very... I know the way the killer was so anonymous was, really creepy. It made me anxious, definitely. How about you, Chelsea? What do you think?
Yeah, I was definitely hooked as soon as that scene started because I figured that the movie would start out kind of slow. And, a lot of times I don't really get into a movie until about halfway through when it kind of starts picking up into the story. But this one, immediately, as soon as that scene came on, I was hooked and I was, stuck to my screen watching the whole thing. It was definitely a strong scene to start the movie with.
Yeah, it was very original. Another thing I noticed was that went along with that scene was the soundtrack. It was, I don't know, for me it gave me a lot of, it was very tense. It made me tense. And I was, very excited for, what was going to happen next. It was very immersive, I guess. I liked it. It was different than other horror movies that I've seen. I noticed it a lot throughout the whole movie, actually. It was pretty cool.
It did have really good music throughout.
Yeah, I thought the whole movie was, very ambient. The creepy noises, too. They're kind of the noises that you would expect, I thought, from a horror movie, but at the same time, I don't know, they fit. I was excited about it, because I was it was, a classic horror movie move to, have the creepy noises, but I had never seen it, executed that well. It, like, really freaked me out and gave me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know why. Sounds get to me. So I guess in the very beginning, when the family moves into the house and stuff, and one thing that really got me was the main character, what was his name, Ellison, when he's moving in with his wife and everything, and she asks him if they moved next door to a crime scene. And then later on, when you go in the house and you see him looking out into the backyard, I don't know about you guys, but that, like, I was pissed, like, when you see the tree. Like, that shocked me. I don't know what you thought about it. But I was like, are you kidding me? I
kind of had that thought as soon as the police officer he mentioned something about the house, and it, like, panned to the house, and so I kind of had an idea. I'm like, no way did he do that. Yep, he did.
Yeah, you caught it on sooner than I did. I didn't pick up on it until I saw the tree. And, like, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, God, the house is definitely going to be haunted or something.
The only reason why I picked up on it, honestly, is not because I put any pieces together. It's just like, well, it's a horror movie. You know, they're definitely going to be in the haunted house. You know, like that's why I figured out it was going to be like that. Then when you see the tree, it's like, okay, there it is.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it. I think it's because when I went into this movie, I went in with no idea, like, what was going to happen. I didn't know anything about it at all. So, like, I didn't know. I guess anytime I watch a horror movie, for some reason, my expectation is it's going to be, like, some kind of slasher. Maybe because that's, like, what most horror movies are like these days. It's just, like, one person dies right after another until there's one person left who either escapes or, you know, gets killed as well. But it wasn't anything like that, so yeah. Let's see. What scene in that movie, aside from, like, the tapes and everything, what creeped you out the most? Like, I know what mine is, but, like, I want to hear what your guys' is.
Without, like, using the tapes? Scene. I mean, the boogeyman. I know they, how do you pronounce it? They call him the boogeyman, but they also pronounce it, how do you say that? Bugul? How the heck you say that?
I do not.
That sounds right.
They call him.
Yeah, it sounds very.
They call him both. But anyway, so I know you said not in the tapes, but, like, when you first see him, because it's not until one of the tapes, if I remember correctly, it's the pool party tape, and he sees the face of the boogeyman in the water, and, like, I remember seeing that and trying to get closer to the TV to see it, and at the same time I was getting closer to the TV, I'm like, why am I getting closer to the TV to see this? Just the creature, man, like the presence of it, and it was creepy, it was eerie.
Oh, definitely. See, when I first saw him, I actually thought he was going to be, like, the serial killer that was going to, like, pop up in the house and start, like, cutting people down. I did not expect, actually, what he was at all. But yeah,
same here.
Creepy. He was very creepy with his creepy face.
Yeah.
And just, like, the way that they kind of, like, obscured him so you couldn't really see him that well. But he was just, like, a, you know, faded image in the back.
Yeah.
So I think, personally, like, my creepiest scene in the movie, the one that got me the worst, was when his son, Trevor, is having the night terror, and the very first time he's in that box, and, like, the box is slowly opening, and I'm like, what in God's name could possibly be in that box, you know? And then, like, I don't know what it was, but the way he just, like, rolled out of it and just started screaming, and, like, I thought he was going to run away, like, because I thought it was a monster, but then he, like, runs towards it, and, like, internally, I'm like, no!
Same here. What are you doing?
I don't know. It was even creepier realizing that it was, like, his own kid doing that. Like, that got me through most of the movie. Those are the scenes that freaked me out the most, aside from the snuff tapes, was his kid having those night terrors. And I think it's because I've never had a night terror, but I have had, like, uncontrollable, like, panic attacks where I scream like that, and it's, like, really creepy. So, like, I was very connected to that scene because I kind of know how he felt. Yeah, that freaked me out. almost couldn't sleep because of that part.
And the cool thing about... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, when you have moments like that in the movie that completely creep you out, this movie was very good about having a little bit of comedy to ease it. Like, my favorite comedic part in this movie was... I even checked on IMDb, like, after watching, because I couldn't recall his actual name, but he's not even credited to a real name. The deputy and Ellison's relationship, like how he basically employs the service of the deputy. But the comedic part is he calls him so-and-so, and he actually saves his number in his phone as Deputy so-and-so. I thought that was just hilarious.
That was funny.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, they did have some parts to, like, ease the tension and stuff, for sure. It was a really good balance. Like, they didn't just throw everything at you at once. They, like, you know, gave you some time to, like, reflect on the plot and, like, kind of try and piece together what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that was really good about that movie. It was very plot-driven. I mean, it was definitely scary, but I think, for me personally, even if a movie has, like, a whole bunch of, like, creepy monsters or whatever... Like, even if it had all the same, like, scary stuff in it that movie did, without the plot, I don't get afraid, because I'm not invested in, like, the story and the characters, and, like, not worried about what's going to happen to them. But in this one, you definitely, like, get into their story. You get to know Ellison really well, and he's, like, the perfect mix of, like, likable and not likable, because he has, like, very human traits, you know? So I thought he was a really well-done character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think the creepiest...
Oh, sorry.
I think the creepiest scenes for me... There was two. So the one when the little girl does the painting on the wall, and she's talking about how...
Yes.
The little girl told her to, but she didn't want her to draw it in her room because that was her brother's room and he died or whatever. That creeped me out because kids are, I mean, they can be a little creepy anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, imagine your kid saying that. No.
Running,
no
packing my bags and leaving.
Do what?
Packing my bags and leaving if a kid says that.
Yeah. No, sorry,
yeah,
you're up for adoption.
Burn the house down.
Yeah. And then the other one was where he had the picture of the boogeyman up, I think it was on his computer, and he had turned away to hang one of the pictures on the wall, and it panned back to the computer screen, the guy moved, the face moved.
Yeah.
That freaked me out. I was like, what? What just happened?
And that's what I loved, like, about the movie, was that, like, all these creepy scenes that we're talking about are shot in high-definition footage. You know, like, outside of the snuff films, the 5 snuff films of the movie, the rest of the movie is shot in high def, not a shaky camera in sight, which is why I was so turned off on this movie at first, because it looks like a typical, Paranormal Activity movie, you know, where they're home video footage, and even there's a scene in the movie where Ellison grabs his cell phone for video capture, and the footage we get is still high definition. Like, it's not the crappy, grainy cell phone footage to make it realistic. It was shot as if it was a serious, you know, drama. They didn't make it the cheap horror movie footage, and it made everything like that. Like the face turning in the picture, the reflection would not have looked as creepy in, you know, the Paranormal Activity style of film. It just wouldn't have worked, I don't think. So them shooting it in the high definition just made it so much better.
Yeah, huge difference.
I definitely agree. I know a lot of people really like the home video kind of style horror movies, so, like, I'm not saying they're not good or anything, but personally I like it when the camera's steady, you know, it's better quality. That style is preferable to me. It's more immersive for me. I don't really get into the, like, home video style ones. I think another reason is because I get sick when the camera's, like, super shaky and stuff. I can't watch it because I have motion sickness, so I'm like, bleh, I can't take it. So on the topic of the snuff films, we should try see which one was your guys' favorite. Like, which one did you think was the creepiest or got you the best? Like, which one kept you up at night?
I'll let you answer this one first, Chelsea.
Okay, I think I'm gonna choose the family barbecue because it has such a typical name for like a home video, and then when you actually get to watching it and the whole family is barbecued, that it was really weird. And then just to see them in the car with all the flames, and especially the ending when you see the child walk away, that messed me up. I think that was probably my favorite of the film. I mean, if it is a favorite, you know.
You're twisted, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a brutal one. I think it might have been, I don't know, I mean, it might have been one of the most painful ways to die, I think. They literally were, like, barbecued to death, so, yeah, that was,
it's terrible.
The name of it, just weird.
Mine would be the pool party. I know I kind of went over it already, but outside of that's the first time you see the boogeyman's face, lingering in the surface of the water. I'm petrified of water. You know, I'm convinced that I'm either going to die from drowning or I have already died in a past life. If that's a thing, I'm just petrified of it. So that happens in the movie. Like that just. I have built-on fear of that already, so it did not help seeing that. That whole scene just irks me, man.
Yeah, it was pretty messed up. I've almost drowned a couple times, and like almost choked to death. So like the feeling of like not being able to breathe is very familiar to me. Actually, when I was watching my favorite snuff tape, I choked on a grape. Because it scared me so bad that I inhaled it and almost died while watching the movie. So mine was lawn work for sure. Like, I mean, that was the one that I hated the most because of how horrible it was. But it was also the one that I liked the most because of my biggest reaction. And I think it was probably just like the anticipation that got me, because I think you see the least amount of like horrible content in that one. I mean, you don't even see anything happen. You see the lawnmower like slowly moving across the lawn, and you like suspect.
You're like, oh, he's cutting the grass at night. How productive.
Yeah, but I mean, I suspected. I was like, oh no, please no. I was like watching it. I was like, please don't do this. And I was expecting something really horrible. Like I was expecting to see some nasty shit when that was going to happen. I was like, he's going to run someone over with that. I knew that was... So, like, when it happened, I think that's why I was so scared. Not because we saw anything, because I expected to see something. I think that's why it got me. Like, I thought they were going to show it.
I'm pretty sure I actually yelled out loud during that scene, because I was watching on my phone. I had headphones in, and I'm pretty sure I yelled out during... I was like, no!
See, when I saw that scene, I thought he was just being a very productive human, making a little extra money, cutting his neighbor's lawn at night, not killing people, you know, like, geez.
Yeah, I knew. I just thought that there was going to be something really bad, and that's something that I think that movie does really well, because if you notice, they don't really show much of anything when it comes to like gore.
Yeah, they don't rely on that in this movie. It's wonderful. They rely on good writing, good editing, like you said, good music. Ethan Hawke delivers one of his best performances ever. Like it's just they relied on wonderful storytelling all around.
Definitely, and they also like I've heard a lot of horror movies claim this, where they say that it's not like they didn't claim it, but people who have reviewed them, where they say that it's the build-up, or like what you imagine is scarier than what you actually see, and that's what makes it super scary. Like I think Blair Witch, a lot of people say that about that movie because you don't see anything in Blair Witch, and they're like, oh, it's what's scary is what you imagine is there. But I mean, I didn't agree. But this movie definitely pulled it off. For me, it was like the anticipation of what I thought I was going to see was worse than what you actually see, and it actually really worked on me. It made me very tense because I never knew when they were going to really show me something really scary. I always thought maybe this time they're going to show something and it would make me very anxious and like worried. I'm like, please don't do this. But at the same time, I couldn't stop watching it because I wanted to know. what was going to happen.
I liked how sleepy time was shown. So, like when he was slitting the throats, you didn't see it, but you saw the reflection in Ellison's glasses.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was interesting because you kind of saw it, but it wasn't the main focus of the shot to see the gore and
his reaction is what you saw.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they did that a lot with the tapes, I noticed, where they would show like his face while he was watching some of the worst parts, and I feel like that helped a lot too, because I don't know, you felt like more connected to him because we both, everybody's like sharing the same horror that he felt. It made it more emotional too, because I think, especially like nowadays, we see a lot of terrible things online, so we get kind of desensitized. But by them like showing his emotions while he was watching it, it kind of made it more human. Like you weren't just watching like, something horrible that could have been fake. Seeing his reactions of like horror and just like disgust and sadness, seeing it kind of makes it more real. At least that's how I felt,
Absolutely, man.
Okay, so one thing, I think for the entirety of the movie, like what weirded me out the most was, I don't know if any of you guys have heard about this, but it's this thing on the internet called The Red Room, and it kind of has the same theme as this movie, sort of. It's like if you watch it, you become cursed.
No, that sounds cool.
Which is how it is.
Huh.
So, like, when I was watching it and, like, noticed that kind of theme, it freaked me out a lot, for sure, because, like, I've always been kind of superstitious and paranoid. I feel like stories like that can get to you, especially ones, because it's also kind of like Slender Man or, like, Bloody Mary, where once you see it or once you do it, there's no going back, I thought that was pretty cool.
You're trapped.
You're trapped, yep.
Yeah. I think we're getting more towards the end where you start to realize what's happening to him. I think that's probably the best part of the movie for me, is like when you start to realize what's happened to Ellison and how like he can't escape from it. They pack up after all the scary stuff happens and they move out of the house and they're like, okay. Yeah, and you have a sense of relief. You're like, oh, good. They didn't follow the horror movie trope and stay and die. They got out. They're going to be safe. And he spends all that time, a few scenes like trying to avoid it and not think about it. And then he gets that call from Deputy so-and-so. I think that was probably one of the best scenes in the movie, is when he picks up the phone and talks to him and realizes, like, oh no, this is what's happening and there's no escape.
Yeah, whenever that moment in the movie, few movies can pull this off, and this was one of them for me, where like I was so invested in the movie, I didn't even want to figure it out. I just wanted to enjoy it, and so I stopped trying to piece stuff together. So the moment whenever Ellison, figures it out, and it's shown to the viewers, I literally I was like, oh crap! Like I was like, holy, he's screwed, and it was just wonderful, because not saying it would have ruined it by any stretch of the imagination, but like I was just so happy I didn't figure it out. I stopped trying to figure out the ending and just waited for the perfect moment. And then he looks down and he realizes, he's drugged by his own daughter, and he wakes up and he's tied next to his wife and his other child. Like it was wonderful.
Definitely. And I liked it too because, like, you could have pieced it together, but I'm also glad I didn't. But I like the part where once he realized that and you realize it too, it's like there's a sudden like clicking together of like puzzle pieces in your head where all of a sudden
absolutely
every single like clue snaps together and you're like, shit, I get it. I get everything. All that stuff, weird stuff that was happening that seemed like random, with like the creepy kids crawling around the house.
Yeah.
Just like clicks together and you're like, well, he's fucked. And also, when you realize he was doomed from the moment
he stepped foot in that house,
he watched that tape.
Yep.
The moment he watched that first tape,
he's screwed.
He was just screwed. Yeah, it was an amazing, like, conclusion. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen in horror movies.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it. It was very unexpected for me. I thought it was great.
Yeah, how did you feel about his family members dying? Personally, I wasn't really attached to his wife. I don't know why, but out of all the characters in the movie, for some reason, I think her name was Tracy, I wasn't attached to her like I was to the kids and Elson. I don't know why.
Yeah, I liked her accent, but she didn't have a
that's about it.
Huge role. Yeah, right.
She seemed very flat. She was just kind of like the naggy, like, wife. Just like, oh, what you're doing is annoying,
she was
and I want to go back
just
home.
there. Right.
Yeah, but I think also when you see, like, the drawing that the daughter does on the box or whatever it was, and she shows, like, how she killed them all. And for me, like, I can picture it in my head. I was just sitting there. I could see them. And it was so heartbreaking, but also satisfying. Because I don't know about you, but I like it when, at the end of movies, like, a lot of people die. I'm not a huge fan of, like, the happy ending. Like, do you prefer, like, the happier endings, or would you have preferred if they had lived or escaped somehow?
For this movie, I think it's the perfect ending. You know, like, there's no right ending that should always be done, but typically Hollywood goes with the happy ending, so that's why a lot of movies are great until the end. I'm really happy they didn't do the happy ending with this one, because it would have made no sense. The whole movie would have just been ruined.
Yeah, I think the ending was a major part of the movie, you know, overall being a good movie.
Absolutely.
I think it was a big part of that.
Definitely, I agree. Well, I think, for me, except for, I think the very last scene is the only thing I have left to talk about, where the very last tape that was made, and the part where, like, the boogeyman carries the girl off into the tape and everything. And I heard there was a second movie, but that it wasn't too good.
Yeah, I saw
but I
it.
think it could have been.
If they make a third one, there would be more reason for the second one. I've not heard anything about a potential third movie. But as of now, like, it's a shame they made it.
Oh, well, that's too bad. I guess I will avoid it then. Well, I think that's all I have to talk about. Is there anything you guys wanted to add?
I got nothing, man.
I think I'm good. We kind of covered it all.
Alright, well then I'm going to announce the next movie that we will be reviewing on our podcast.
Yes, before we get into that, can I just say one thing real quick?
Oh, of course.
So, if you happen to be watching or listening to this wonderful, brilliant, magnificent podcast, in October we're going to be doing, our plan was to do 4, we're going to now aim for 3 because some events happen with real life for a few of us, so, you know, it happens. So we're going to shoot for this week, next week, and the week of Halloween. So 3 horror movie podcast reviews. And then, if all goes well, we're going to just kind of continue it, but maybe do 1 a month. And kind of slow it down. The holidays are coming up. And just have some fun with it. So if you like it, definitely keep your eyes peeled. Subscribe to us, because we will be giving more podcasts out in the future. And there'll be different categories. If you don't like the horror movies, we're going to be doing more podcasts in the future as well with other people in this. So just wanted to throw that out there before we got finished. So the floor is yours, Tempest.
Alright, yeah, definitely. I hope you guys check out our other podcasts, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. Alright, so the next movie that we are going to be watching and reviewing is called The House of the Devil. I don't know a lot about this movie, except for just the very basic synopsis. It is about a struggling college student who takes a babysitting job and finds out that it's not all what it seems.
Dun dun dun!
It looks pretty good. It has really good reviews, so hopefully it'll turn out good.
Yeah, I never even heard of this movie, but it's on everywhere I looked, it kept popping up as a good movie. So hopefully it lives up to its expectations.
Yeah, I hope so too. It looks different.
Yeah,
it looks interesting.
Yeah, I watched the trailer and It looks a lot. The feeling I have for this movie is a lot like the feeling I had when I watched the trailer for this movie we just talked about. So I don't think it's going to be quite as good as Sinister, but you never know.
Yeah, Sinister's hard to live up to. I mean, that's a pretty strong start. That movie was pretty bomb. But we'll see. Who knows?
Who knows? Even if it's half as good as Sinister, it's still a good movie.
Definitely, true. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, awesome. We will see you at our next podcast, everybody. Thanks for listening, and bye.